Okay, as many of you know, April 19th, I was arrested for possession of child pornography. You aren't aware of all the facts, and I'm not going to produce all the evidence. I'm not going to produce any of the evidence in this video. This is more or less a primer to let you know what's coming. And it's going to get interesting. Right now, what's around me is a perfect storm. A perfect storm of false accusations, fraudulent charges, tampering with evidence. Uh, Let me start from the beginning. About what was I saying? About February 19th of 2011. About February 19th, 20th, somewhere around that way. Uh, my uncle had tried to steal my car to kidnap his son. This was because he lost all parental claims to his son for the fact that he molested him. Um, the evidence come back as inconclusive, and part of the evidence which was investigated by his good buddy, Deputy Jason Redden. Uh, During this argument, I laid my BlackBerry on the kitchen table and turned the video camera on and left it to record. During this argument, my uncle threatened to tell the police that I was a terrorist and was threatening to blow up the city of Beckley and using gas lines and blow up water mains and power substations and bridges and a whole bunch of different stuff. And, well, I told him if he did, which I was already I already told him I was testifying for his son when all this exploded. I told him go ahead because I'll just report him for the fact that he tried to download child pornography onto my computer. At that point, he shut up and walked into the other room. Didn't even try to defend himself or anything else. And let's face it, if you didn't do it, if someone says I'm going to tell them that you were downloading child pornography onto my computer and you didn't download child pornography onto that person's computer, you're going to have some reaction other than to shut up, bow your head, and walk away. February 25th, a search warrant was issued for my computers, cell phones, a whole bunch of things, for an alleged search warrant for terrorism from my uncle. March 10th, I wrote a statement to the West Virginia Crime Lab. Told the forensics lab to look on my Android. I meant my BlackBerry, but I mistakenly said my Android because I'm more commonly use the Android format of smartphone. And in so doing, told them that they would find evidence of my uncle where he had gotten to an argument and his reaction and everything else to my statement, his threat to bring false evidence against me, to make false claims against me and everything else. Now, from my understanding, October 26th of 2011, a second search warrant was issued to take for all the same materials which was taken in the supposed terrorist search warrant, but this time for child pornography. An important thing to note about this is that when I filed my complaint with Lieutenant Deeds, he told me that my BlackBerry and my computers were at the state police detachment, which means the second search warrant was issued to remove evidence from a forensics lab that has to be investigated by a forensics lab, therefore covering up the fact that my uncle made false statements to the police and that there was evidence of him committing a crime instead of me in police possession at the time. That's an act of bad faith. The fact that I was not charged with this until 6 months later, April 11th, 2012, after my April 10th statement to the Secretary of Captain White, head of professional standards, that if either he or Lieutenant Dees didn't get back in hold of me with additional evidence of showing criminal conspiracy between Magistrate Mary Jennings, certain members of her daughter's in-laws, the Lilies, most of which are deputies or police officers, and the other half is a bunch of drug smuggling, gun running pedophiles. Uh, and once this information came out, suddenly Lieutenant Dees no longer accepted my calls or wanted to talk to me or hear from me or look at any evidence or anything else. Hence my statement for April 10th that I was going to the governor's office if I didn't hear from them within 24 hours. Well, I should have heard from them within 24 hours because April 11th they got an arrest warrant for the possession of child pornography. The Trooper Efred, said that he had told the forensics lab, and this was during the preliminary hearing, said that he had told the forensics lab to stop investigating so he could get the second search warrant. And apparently the second search warrant removed it all from the forensics lab. So questions come up. One, why remove evidence from a forensics lab if it has to be investigated by a forensics lab? Why tell them to stop investigating said evidence if they're already investigating it? Even if he was getting the second search warrant to be thorough, as he claimed, thoroughly corrupt, then he should not have removed it from the forensics lab. He essentially tampered with evidence. The fact that Trooper Efred walked into the room when I was talking with Lieutenant Deeds in the copy room at the West Virginia State Police Attachment 6, and Lieutenant Deeds was given a copy of the statement I have given the forensics lab, signed and notarized March 10th of 2011, with the instructions giving it to the investigating officer so that way he would have it and be advised of it, and apparently he didn't do so, which conflicts with his duty to report and his duty to pass on exculpatory evidence to the proper officials. They're caught acting in bad faith. So at this point, things kind of a little bit up in the air. I'm going to play some evidence in subsequent videos. I'm going to give everyone a chance to look at what's going on out here. And this carries on to two different things. You have to understand, I pushed their buttons on the child when they threatened me with they found child porn on your computer, for the simple fact that I knew they were going to arrest me for it. I knew they were going to act within a certain area of bad faith. In the 8-page statement I gave to the state police outlining criminality and the exclusionary rule, my certain court cases which protect my First Amendment right to read any damn thing I want, because there was terrorist manuals on my computer, but they were research material for a book I was working on called Street Soldier, comparing how certain paramilitary gangs and use prison-based martial arts and paramilitary training as a form of indoctrination, similar to how certain terrorist organizations do as well. How they hide behind how they hide the goal of getting money and power behind some kind of political agenda. That type of essentially that type of mentality for that book there was material there to be researched, and so that's all they have. No plot, no plan, nothing. You can read a book on how to make bombs. That doesn't make you a terrorist. That's not illegal. You just can't write down or put to paper your plan to use said formula to build a bomb. You can't use the material, but you can read it. It's a weird government, right? And more point of fact, the officers are caught acting in bad faith, covering up exculpatory evidence, tampering with evidence, trying to conceal evidence of another person committing the crime so they can falsely accuse someone else. This is where we currently stand at. I'm going to post subsequent videos that's going to have evidence. Some of the recordings I've made from when I was talking with officers, some of the paperwork is going to be brought up. Copies of paperwork is going to be brought up. Examinations of statements and the evidence collected by the officers are going to be examined. All of this is going to be looked at. All of this is going to be put out here for everyone to see. I have nothing to hide. I don't care. These people are doing their damnedest to try to destroy my good name, to leave me no place to deal with in society except among drug dealers and drug addicts and criminals, thieves and snitches, a world that they control. And I'm not that person. I'm not a criminal, but they're trying to make me into one. I don't need to pick up a gun or to blow up a building or anything like that to get my point across. I can shut the whole thing down by exposing these people for the criminals they are. Because while we're waiting on my case to take precedence and things to happen in my case, it shows everyone else out there basically the same method that I use to end up in a situation that I am, to where I have all the cards. Since all this comes out in the public record, it's admissible as evidence as per the West Virginia Rules of Criminal Procedure and the West Virginia Rules of Evidence. So it's there. It's an examination of everything that's out there, everything that's outlined. And when they start being shown to be the criminals that they are, it undermines their cloak of lawful authority. You can't seriously be taken as a police officer trying to uphold the trying to uphold the law and protect society when you're busting drug dealers, but then you're just giving the drugs you take or quantity thereof to your cousin or your brother to have them to resell it so you can make a little bit of money on the side. You can't be covering up for another person committing crime just so you can pin it on somebody else you don't like. This is going to be a learning process for everyone. And most importantly, it's going to give a lot of people a lot of power they didn't know they had. Because whatever their cases are in court, they can come in and use pattern of behavior, which is something from acceptable in the Western Rules of Evidence, to look at whether or not something was done in bad faith. And if they have a pattern of committing acts in bad faith, all you have to do is prove it. This is going to make it really difficult for a lot of people. It's going to make it really interesting and fun for me.